right now I want to bring up a quote from another IGN interview pair that really stuck out to us, where IGN asked Iwata what he does at Nintendo, like what's his role right now. I think this was in 2001. And he said, quote, "My primary role at NCL is to act as a communicator and to try and remove any frictions in communications based on my experience as a developer. Someone called me director of problem solving." And I just think that that is so perfect to describe exactly what Iwata was, and all the stories that you hear about him swooping in to save games at the 11th hour. And we have some examples here. I think maybe the most prominent example is how he worked on EarthBound. And this story is told in this book that I have here, which is Ask Iwata, which you should read. It's really good. It has excerpts from a bunch of Iwata asks stuff from Nintendo.com. It's a compilation of a bunch of different quotes and stories from Iwata. It's where we're pulling a lot of this show from. And it's really great. But in it, they talk about EarthBound, which is Mother 2 in Japan. It's the game, the RPG on the Super Nintendo that stars Ness from Super Smash Brothers, which is what he's most known for now. But basically, Iwata went to Shigesato Itoi, who was working on EarthBound at the time, and the game was having a lot of trouble. It was not even close to being where it needed to be. And Iwata went in, he evaluated everything, and he told the team, working with what we have, it would take 2 years to fix things up. If you don't mind starting from scratch, we could be done in 6 months. So he gave the team working on EarthBound these two choices, and they chose, let's tear it down, let's start from scratch and work on it in 6 months. So Iwata devotes the next 6 months to fixing EarthBound and getting it ready in a place where it can ship and be put on store shelves, and they get there. But even in his story about it, Iwata is very humble about it, and he still says that, no, this only happened because of what the original team did, and EarthBound brims with the spirit of experimentation that guided all of those who toiled over its design. So just really nice, kind words from him to the original developer team. But Pear, without Iwata, EarthBound isn't the cult classic that it is today.
No, he really stepped in and saved it. And that, in general, EarthBound development stories are interesting ones. There's a really cool documentary on Mother 3 that you can watch online, and they did some interviews with me on that one, and it just brought back all these memories that when we covered the later EarthBound games, they were again in development hell, right? Like. And it's never clear because Nintendo did not just sort of open the doors and say, here's what's going on and here's what we're fixing. So you have to sort of interpret what's going on. But like my viewpoint of it was always that Mr. Itoi is a creator. He's a writer and comedian and like just super creative, but he's not a project manager. And I think Mr. Iwata is the sort of rare example of a creator who is also a project manager, who's like he's business minded and organized and a scheduler. He is he's like product and engineering under the same roof, right? Like he's the architect and the builder. And I think because of that, and honestly, some old school game developers were like that always, right? Like the old Atari age or the old arcade masters, the David Cranes and Ed Logs and the folks that made Pac-Man and Pitfall and all these wonderful games, and Joust and Centipede. They made the music, they programmed, they planned it. Some of them were good at marketing and some of them were not, and so they sort of needed the companies later to shine and really come out big. And I think Iwata is all of that. I think he's the creator, he's the programmer, he is the project manager, and he is a master marketer. And like that is what makes him so rare, right? And so I think the impact of this one person was felt in many ways, and I think he's been very humble on EarthBound, and I think Mr. Itoi was creative and had lots of ideas and didn't know where to cut, and probably didn't know how to direct the team to build the game, and maybe there's some new programmers on the team, and Iwata stepped in and just kind of said, and he probably would consider this to be a mistake later in his career, but he stepped in and just did it himself, right? And so I think as he took on a leadership role, he probably focused much more on teaching others on how to fix it.
Yeah, yeah, and something that's really interesting in the book where Iwata talks about this is that he says that he knew that doing it in 6 months was the best choice, but he didn't want to destroy morale and come in and tear everything down. So he presented it as these two choices, but one choice was clearly better than the other, and they came to the right one. But I thought that was a fun anecdote. And he also talks about how different he and Mystery Toy are in some of the ways that you just laid out, Pear, and that they're very different in how they think about things, how they plan, how they work,
Yep.
how they operate. But like at their core, they have the same belief about the art that they want to create. And I thought that that was a really nice sentiment from him. And he said that that he grew very close to Itoy in just the year that they worked together on Earthbound, and that one little line that Itoy said about who Earthbound was for. It's this, right. It's this coming of age RPG set in like a contemporary satire of America, and it's very funny, but also very poignant and emotional. And Itoy said that Earthbound is for grown-ups, kids, and the girl next door. So basically saying it's for everybody.
Yeah.
And Mr. Iwata in his book says that the Nintendo Wii would not be what it was without this experience he had working on Earthbound, and that this is kind of what inspired him to expand the audience of gamers and make everybody a gamer, was Itoy's philosophy on who Earthbound was for. And I thought that was a really cool tie that I'd never heard before reading that in the book, that he was just really inspired by Itoy's philosophy on kind of expanding this audience and making something for everybody, and that led to the Wii.